Good morning, friends. I am at my parents' house in the woods up north. It is a beautiful, chilly morning. I got in last night and it's like a 4-hour drive, so I was pretty tired once I came in. But yeah, I'm here to photograph a wedding on Saturday, but it is currently Friday, so I have all of today to chill and rest and hang out. And yeah, I just wanted to bring you all along with me because I am still reading. I have started a new audiobook on this trip and it is going so well. I am now 50% of the way through because of my long drive that I had. I am currently listening to Death in Her Hands by Ottessa Moshfegh. This is my first Moshfegh novel and I am enjoying it immensely. This audiobook is phenomenal. I am really loving the narrator. Her sweet, feeble old lady voice, because this follows an older woman. She is in her 70s, I believe. She lives alone and she is walking through the woods with her dog and she finds a note on the ground that says something along the lines of, her name was Magda. No one will know who killed her, but I didn't do it. This follows our protagonist's psychological spiraling, trying to figure out who Magda is, trying to solve this crime, even though we're not even really sure a crime has happened. She's just panicked about who Magda is. She's creating these characters and narratives and culprits in her mind and can envision them so clearly, and she's telling them to us basically. And it's like a story within a story, and I'm really enjoying it, especially for like a long drive up north where it gets more dark and eerie and more pine trees and less civilization and dark woods and forests. It's such a good vibe to listen to right now, and I'm just enjoying it a lot. I've had my eye on Ottessa Moshfegh for a long time, especially for anyone who's a fan of, you know, depressed woman moving literature, any lit fic vibes, but I just haven't gotten my hands on it. I think it's one of those authors that like is a little overhyped for me personally, so I'm a little wary and nervous about reading her, but I'm having a great time so far. I'm really enjoying this. And one of my dear friends told me that I specifically should read Death in Her Hands. She really wanted to know what I thought of it, so thank you, Tanika. I'm excited to finish reading this one. And I'm also still reading Under Gemini by Rosamund Pilcher. I am now on page 69. 42069, Blaze It. I love this. I absolutely adore this. I haven't been reading very much lately because I have been working like 12 to 15 hour long days lately, so audiobooks have kind of been my best medium that I can listen to while I'm working. But any chance I have to pick this up, oh my gosh, I just adore it. I adore this novel so much. I was trying to think of how I would describe it because it's not quite like, you hear other booktubers or people talking about like, oh, it's like a popcorn book. You know, you read it while you're eating popcorn, you just like munch on it. It's like a Netflix thriller. It's something that you don't really have to think about. You don't have to turn your brain on. Some other people describe it as like bubble gum. It's like candy. It's cotton candy. It's fluffy. I would describe this though as a cup of cozy, calming chamomile tea because it is so quaint. It is so British. All of the characters are likable. We love everyone. Everyone is nice to each other. Everyone is kind. Everyone is intriguing. Everyone has very strong character studies. I love everyone. This author does such a wonderful job of introducing us to characters that we immediately care about because they're just like really nice and tender, caring people, and they're just moving through the world, but their world just happens to be one of like English countryside manners and like taking their dogs for a walk on the beach and like having dinner parties. I don't know how to explain it, but if you just like the day-to-day ordinary lives of things that are just like, it's just romanticized. It's not with the hustle and bustle of technology because this was written in the 70s. I'm guessing it takes place around the 70s, but it could even be earlier than that. I'm not sure. The only reference we really have is like, we know there are telephones in here. That's about it. But I just love that. I love that feeling of like this timelessness, this beauty, this connection with others, this sprawling landscape. The descriptions and adjectives used, like the writing style is just very elegant and it's like sipping a cozy cup of chamomile tea. And I just really, really love it. So I'm really hoping I can pick this up later today, especially because once I finish my work for the day, I definitely want to be out and about and just like relaxing before a long work day tomorrow. and then a long drive home on Sunday, and then a long work week again. So yeah, we shall see. I just wanted to take you all along with me on my travels. I really love being up north and just taking a break and being more in nature. It feels really, really good. All right, I will check in with you all a little bit later. Hello. I am back home from my travels up north. It was such a lovely time. It was so relaxing. Getting fresh air and being around pine trees, amazing. It does wonders for the body, mind, spirit, heart, soul, all the things. It was so good. Spending time with my family was super nice. I photographed a gorgeous wedding. It was wonderful. It honestly felt like fall up there in the north. It was like 60 degrees. And then the air smelled like all this like wet foliage that I just don't get in the city. And it was just amazing. Like it felt like the first little tastings of fall. I got to read more of Under Gemini, which I will talk about. But first, before I get completely derailed, I did finish listening to Death in Her Hands by Ottessa Moshfegh on my drive home. Gotta love those long car rides for audiobooks, and I really enjoyed this novel. I absolutely enjoyed it. I think there is so much that you could pick apart with this novel specifically, like just rip it open and analyze and annotate and really think about what these certain things mean. There were so many undercurrents where all of a sudden I'd be like, oh, this is what the novel is about. And then it would bring up another topic. I'd be like, oh, this is what the novel is about like grief and loss of identity as we're aging, loss of identity as a woman, the psychological power of our own narratives. Because our main protagonist, Vesta, the old woman, she is completely creating this narrative about Magda and this woman who potentially was like murdered and killed, and she can envision all the people who could have done it, all of Magda's lovers, where Magda came from. And it is so watertight. That's what it feels like. It feels like we now know who this character is, and we are rooting for Magda as well, and how just the power of like words, the power of validation, the power of story to fill in names, to fill in these empty spaces that were once empty, these like negative space vessels, by giving them purpose and meaning and a voice and a story and a background, even if it's fictionalized. At least someone cares about it. There's so much that you can talk about with this book, and I really enjoyed it. I really freaking enjoyed this novel. Again, though, it was one of those endings that just didn't quite grip me, and I honestly at this point don't even know what I'm waiting for, and I don't know exactly what I'm looking for when it comes to like a new favorite read of all time. This was not it either. Not a new favorite of all time, and it's just been so long since I've had a new favorite of all time, and I'm waiting for it. And it usually always has something to do with the ending. I want that ending to just like destroy me emotionally and make me not want to get out of bed for 3 weeks, and I want to ruminate on it. And yeah, so I guess I want to be emotionally pulverized, honestly. And this one did not do that for me, but overall, highly recommend. I loved it. I had no idea where this was going, and it is so insular. We're just following Vesta, our main protagonist, and there really isn't much dialogue. There really aren't many outside forces. It is so psychological and in her head, but you're getting to know her, and I love how as the novel progresses, so does her thought patterns and the way that she thinks. We watch her grow in these really interesting ways. For me personally, I viewed it as like she's finally recognizing who she is and giving herself an identity instead of like glossing over her life and existence, and finally validating herself. But I think it could also be viewed as like she's psychologically falling down these rabbit holes. Maybe she's just convincing herself that things were a certain way. And over time, you can convince yourself of a completely different reality than the one you were actually in. So it's really interesting. I think it's a really cool topic that I could talk about for a long time if I don't stop right now. So anyway, I really liked it. I would not mind reading more Ottessa Moshfegh now. I will eat my words. Brilliantly done. Okay. Under Gemini, I am now on page 133. Just started the chapter called Brian, so each chapter in here is named after a different character. And we follow them for a little bit, so there are 10 chapters in total following this cast of characters. It's very easy to tell people apart, except for the few people we have not read from yet. So I think they'll become a little bit more distinguished once we actually read from their perspective or just enter their world a little bit more. Y'all, I'm loving this. I am more than halfway at this point, and I love it. I love this book. It made me think also, if you're a fan of like cozy British murder mystery vibes, or like even Ted Lasso, where it's just like really heartwarming. What was that other show? Oh my gosh. One of my subscribers recommended this like old British show. Maybe it was something about like Rosemary and time. It was all about a garden, and it was all about this woman who like travels to estates and helps their garden, but like that cozy feeling. It was a fabulous show. I watched a few episodes and I loved it. And why did I stop? I need to revisit that because that is what this is. So if that subscriber, if you are still here, this I recommend to you because this is that feeling. Not as much about horticulture and botany, but like the atmosphere and everything. I was shocked. I was gagged at one point because our sneaky little author had a red herring in here. At least maybe I was just being silly and clueless, but I really thought this was going to be a certain way because our main character Flora, who's pretending to be Rose, her twin sister, is now at Fernrig, which is the manor in Scotland that this family lives at, that Anthony's grandmother and her family like live at. And his grandmother Tuppy is ill, and she just really wanted to see Rose and Anthony one last time kind of thing. And the whole family is gathered. They're not ready to let Tuppy go. She is like the matriarch of this family. And when Flora visits, pretending to be Rose, a man approaches her on the beach and is very much like, why are you here? Why did you come back? I really didn't think he would be that stupid to come back after all you've been through. And so she's piecing together like, oh, I think Rose might have had an affair with an older man, and I'm not exactly sure. And so you think it's going to be one character, and then you don't find out chapters later who that is, but we'd already been reading from other people's perspectives, so now we know who that person is. I was shocked. I was truly like surprised and so invested. Honestly, this book just is so humanizing with these characters. Like I said before in my last update, where it's like I just genuinely care about them. They're so tender and kind and real and human and fleshed out. They feel real in the most utopian kind of way, where it's like, yeah, weird things are happening. Like, are Flora and Antony really doing an altruistic thing by lying to Tuppy, saying that she's Rose and that they're engaged, even though Rose is not there and Rose is now in Greece and they are not engaged anymore? Like, where do the lines lie? Like, so there are sticky things happening. It's kind of like Gilmore Girls, right? There's like bad things happening, but it's mainly just through interpersonal connections and insider drama, basically. But there's no greater devastating chaos and calamity. And I just absolutely adore this. Y'all, I really adore it. I just really want to finish this. So tomorrow I have a few appointments I have to go to, a few life things I need to catch up on that I have been putting on the wayside because of my workload. So I have a lot going on, but in the meantime, I would love to read this. Any little spare minute I have, I want to crack this open and read it because I'm just loving it so much. Although this weekend I am traveling. I'm traveling out to a music festival. I'm really excited to have a weekend off where I can just travel for fun and leisure and not for work. So yeah, that is my chatty update. I am loving books and I would love to read more this month. At this point, it is getting close to halfway through August already, which is bananas to me, and I don't like that yet. So I want to finish this. I'd like to read a few more books this month. We'll see if it will happen. Oh my gosh, I did start listening to a new audiobook. I honestly DNF'd 2 audiobooks. I DNF'd both of them around an hour and a half, 2 hour mark. So that's kind of devastating when you get that far into an audiobook and then you're like, I just can't deal with this. And both of them were just so infuriating. There's a difference between characters that are meandering and complex versus whiny and privileged, and I don't like the whiny privileged perspectives. And both of the books I picked up were written in first person, and it felt like, and maybe it's because I was also listening to it, just felt like I was listening to someone read their diary out loud about how shitty their life was, and I just could not deal with it. One was like a suspense murder mystery, just because that's really easy and fun to listen to as an audiobook, especially in the summer. We love a good whodunit. And then the other one was, I think, more of a literary fiction with like some psychological elements. And oh my gosh, they drove me nuts. I had to DNF both of them. But now I am maybe an hour into a new audiobook called like The Lake of Dead Languages or something. I can't remember exactly, but I'll put the cover here. I am loving this. It is too soon to tell, but so far I'm picking up vibes of Secret History, Donna Tartt ambiance. This takes place in upstate New York, and it was written in 2005, and we're following a woman who returns to an all-girls boarding school that she went to, and now she's teaching Latin there, and all the girls who attend her Latin class are like the misfits, they're misunderstood, but it's like this feminine rage kind of energy for the early 2000s, but it's going to follow the secret unraveling of what happened when she was in school there however many years ago. And the school has like a lot of like history / legends. I think it began as a legend and then became something that actually was happening, of some of those students, the girls, unaliving themselves on the property in the lake. And so we're starting to unravel like what happened when our main protagonist was at school and both of her roommates passed away. So I am loving this. It's atmospheric, it's moody, it is written beautifully, it has that Donna Tartt like cozy dark academia atmosphere and ambiance and aesthetic that I really, really enjoy, where it just perpetually feels like it's autumn and dusk. I love it. So yeah, I'm reading some really wonderful things right now. I'm really enjoying the atmosphere of the books I've been reading, the vibes, the writing style. Like, I am just surrounded by beautiful writing and literature and female authors, so I'm absolutely loving it. I think that is finally all I wanted to say. I think we're all caught up. Thank you for being here. I hope you're enjoying the vlog. I am so excited to keep reading. So yeah, I'll have to check in with you all a little bit later, take you all along with me to a music festival, perhaps, but honestly, it's gonna be sweaty and I'm gonna be dancing a lot, so we'll see if I actually check in. But yeah, I hope y'all are doing really well. Hello friends, I'm back home. Winston is chirping at a stray cat outside the window. Fun fact, my neighborhood is covered with stray cats, which breaks my heart. And I have like a little house in the backyard, so that way they can go somewhere in the rain, and I try. Anyway, I had such an amazing time at the music festival. I had such an amazing weekend. It has been a while since I have been able to just like leisurely luxuriate in a weekend and travel for fun and pleasure and not for obligation and not for work, and it was divine. I have never smiled so much and I have never sweat so much. Like, It was just great. I had such a great time. And surprisingly, while on that trip, I did finish Under Gemini by Rosamund Pilcher. I actually was so close to finishing this. I think I only had 6 or 7 pages left, so I just finished it on the car ride home. And what a delight, what a treat. It did not go where I thought it was going. And for that, I give equal parts kudos to the author and equal parts I'm kind of disappointed. This is such a like British, cozy, slice of life, low stakes, Ted Lasso, Cornwall, England, cup of tea, 70s vibe that slowly started veering towards romance. And then it was just full steam ahead romance. And I was like, what is happening? But in a like soft core, gentle romance kind of way. Very 70s, very skirting around ideas and concepts, not talking about anything passionate, but just like, I am attracted to this person and he's a grumpy man and I'm a ray of sunshine, and everyone loves our main character Flora. And I don't really understand why, because I don't really feel like we get a big personality from her, but it's just cozy. Like, everyone is loved in this. Everyone has a beautiful story to tell, and that's what I loved about this novel, and how, even though I didn't really care for how it ended and where it was going, I thoroughly enjoyed that throughout it. Even the last 20 pages, we were getting characters' stories from their own voice, their dialogue of their story and their life and where they've been and what they've been through. And I think that that's something that nowadays a lot of authors and novels in general tend to give character backstory at the very beginning through dialogue, and it is so clunky and uncomfortable when it's like, how are we going to share the synopsis of these characters without having to show people it? And they're like, hey, yes, remember our father died 25 years ago. And I'm like, no one speaks like that. It's unnatural. It's weird. But this author was still unraveling characters' backstories all the way through the novel. It was ubiquitous. Like, the last 10 pages, here was the backstory of Tuppy, the great-grandmother who has been in bed this whole time, this family's matriarch. We get her story, and I loved that. I loved that we were still progressing as a novel. We were still progressing as readers. It was like we were getting to know everyone as well as our main character Flora, because she was introduced to this world and she was getting to know them. And we got to get to know them alongside her. And I thought it was delightful. I thought it was so sweet. Definitely had some like normalized 70s sexism in here, like man grabbing her by the wrist and yanking her through a restaurant, but like that scene is like sexy and powerful and macho, and I'm like, huh. Okay, not for me. And just the way that our main character Flora was spoken to by these men was just so barf worthy. It was just gross. And interestingly enough, you know, it took me a while to realize, finishing this and then also finishing Death in Her Hands, I love that both of these stories kind of centered around older female characters. There's Tuppy, the grandmother, in here, and then there's our main character Vesta in Death in Her Hands, and they're older women. They've accomplished so much in their life. They've done so much, and even our main character in here, Flora, is also suffering from this like massive identity crisis. She finds out she's a twin sister, and through this she's learning who her twin sister is by how others are treating her when she visits Fernrig. There's this loss of identity that happens as a woman as being older, and I love that both of these novels really touched on that, this loss of self and this identity of self, and understanding who you are and how easily you can be dissociated and separated from that concept of self if others perceive you as somebody else, or if you're overlooked entirely, you're just invisible, you don't exist anymore to society, to people in your life, etc., etc. It was just really, really interesting. So overall, this was really cozy. If anyone sees it around, I recommend picking it up. I thought it was fun, especially if you just want a brainless, like cozy, well-written story. I just think it was such a good reprieve. And now I'm ready to dive back into bigger, thicker, juicier, meatier topics, which is perfect because while I was on my little vacation this weekend, I did get to go to a new independent bookstore in Grand Rapids that I didn't even know was a thing. and it was beautiful. And there I saw a copy of The Woman Destroyed by Simone de Beauvoir. I have wanted to read this forever. As long as I've had consciousness, I don't know. I've been wanting to read this specifically, but also like any work by Simone de Beauvoir for a long time. And I was like, you know what? I'm here. I might as well support a local bookstore. I'm gonna do it. I'm finally gonna do it, and I love it. I started reading this in the car right after finishing Under Gemini. These are 3 stories. There is The Age of Discretion, The Monologue, and The Woman Destroyed. And if you're not familiar, Simone de Beauvoir is a well-known existentialist, which I definitely classify myself as an existentialist, though not through any sort of like practice or intellect or studies. It's just my own personal philosophical brain and way of thinking. And these 3 immensely intelligent stories are about the decay of passion, and it follows the lives of 3 women, all past their first youth, all facing unexpected crises. And Simone de Beauvoir personally was born in Paris in 1908. She became the youngest person ever to obtain the agrégation in philosophy at the Sorbonne, and she taught in Versailles from 1931 to 1937. Like, she emerged as one of the leaders of the existentialist movement, one of the most influential thinkers of her generation. So I've been wanting to read her for a while, and I just love this. Honestly, I have to go back because I was in the car while reading it. I'm only on page 24 to annotate. I have to go through this and reread and annotate, because as I was bumping along in the car, I was like, I wish I could like safely annotate this, but I can't, and I need to go back, and I just love it. This also is going to touch on that same concept of identity, especially through this female lens of aging. All these characters are past their first youth, and as somebody who is like on the precipice of experiencing all of that, that's something that has been very heavy on my mind, is like not necessarily mortality, but like the loss of youth, the loss of beauty has been like really crazy for me lately to think about and experience. And it's not like I'm trying and actively trying to think about it, but I feel disconnected from the generations younger than me, and it's a weird feeling to slowly start to feel displaced. It's a loss, it's a mourning, it's a really interesting concept and topic, and I love reading from female authors. I love thinking about and digesting and analyzing the concept of identity, self versus perceived. Very, very interesting, because I think it's something that is so internal and it feels so internal, but there is an external world that puts its own factors onto it and causes you to feel this lack and loss of identity. So, I could geek out about this stuff all day. I'm so excited to read this. So I'm gonna wrap up the vlog here, and I'm gonna start a new vlog with this. This upcoming week is gonna be really chill and enjoying the last little sips of summer, and hopefully going swimming and just reading before hopping into another really busy work season. So I have a little bit of a reprieve. So I'm gonna start a new vlog for that and read The Woman Destroyed. I'm so excited. But if you made it to the end and you would like to comment something but you don't know what to comment, let's do something based on Under Gemini, which we have to do something on astrology. So I would love if you want to comment emojis based on your astrological zodiac sign. So if you are a Scorpio, you can put a little scorpion emoji, or you can just put like the actual astrology stamp sticker emoji and just call it good. If you're really into that kind of stuff, you can give us your big 3, your sun, moon, rising. I would love to hear it, see it, all that fun stuff. But thank you so incredibly much for being here, my friends. I appreciate you so much. I am so excited to see you all again very soon for my next video. Until then, stay cozy, my friends. Bye!